Hello, I'm Dr. Ed Kirsche with Antioch Baptist Bible College in Cartersville, Georgia. And this is lesson number 2 on the Old Testament book of the Song of Solomon. We're going through the book of Song of Solomon, and this is lesson number 2. So we're going to pick up on chapter 1, verse 5, and go through verse 11. We're breaking it down, going verse by verse. So join us. Excuse me. Let's pray together. Father, we do thank you for loving us and caring for us. Thank you for all that you do. We ask your continual blessings upon us. In Jesus' wonderful name we pray. Amen. We are a Bible college and institute and a seminary. And if you have this is the Song of Solomon, and it is a Bible college class that students can take. And we hope you're enjoying it. And we're going to have 12 lessons. And like I said, this is lesson 2. Let me read the passage we're going to cover today, and then we'll go back and outline it. Listen to this. I am black, but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kirsche, as the curtains of Solomon. Look not upon me, because I am black, because the sun has looked upon me. My mother's children were angry with me. They made me the keeper of the vineyard, but mine own vineyard have I not kept. Tell me, O thou whom my soul loveth, where thou feedest, when thou makest the flock to rest at noon. For why should I be as one that turneth aside by the flock of thy companions? If thou knowest not, O thou fairest among women, go thy way, forth by the footsteps of the flock, and feed the kids beside the shepherd's tent. I have compared thee, O my love, to a company of horses in Pharaoh's chariots. Thy cheeks are comely, with rows of jewels, thy neck with chains of gold. We will make thee borders of gold and studs of silver. Along with this course, we're offering an outline that looks like this, and this is for the student to fill in the blanks. If you don't have it, you can just make a plain piece of paper. A was on lesson 1. This is lesson B, lesson 2, which will start with B. Okay? Now, the lesson here, this passage that I read, what makes a woman beautiful? We're in the beginning of this relationship between Solomon and the Shulamite, and we want to ask the question, what makes a woman beautiful? Now, you say, well, that's arbitrary. That there's different women that have different qualities, red hair, blonde hair, black hair. That's not it. What makes a woman beautiful? And we're going to look at a couple things here. In verse, that's B, what makes a woman beautiful? Number 1, her ability to do true self-examination. A woman who can be true with herself, about herself, is really a beautiful woman. It has very little to do with her outward beauty, like Hollywood beauty. It's not having to do with that. We're talking about an inward beauty that a woman has, and that's what makes her beautiful. And if she has the ability to examine herself, how does she do that? How does she be honest about herself? And that's what we want to examine in verse 5. In verse 5, she says, I am black, but comely. That word comely has the idea of, beautiful, fair, pleasant. I'm a pretty woman. O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kirsche, or as the curtains of Solomon. Now, she accepts the facts of her appearance. Years ago, I was studying something, I forget where I was, but we were talking about how human beings, and pretty much across the face of the globe, have a tendency to want to change ourselves. We're not satisfied with our appearance. Somebody who has light color skin wants it darker. Somebody with dark color skin wants it lighter. Somebody with straight hair wants it curly. Somebody with curly hair wants it straight. And how much effort do we put on changing our appearance? I think a beautiful woman is one who accepts the facts of her appearance. Well, what is it? How do you appear? And if you accept how you look, other people will generally look at you and accept you, and they won't even think anything about it, hardly. Uh, so this beautiful woman, she examines herself and she accepts the facts. What is the Shulamite saying here? I'm black. Don't judge me because I'm black. Now, when Solomon was writing this, somewhere around 900, 950 BC, we're talking about a long time ago, but there was some prejudice, there was some concepts, and she wants to bring out that her skin was black. She says in verse 6, look not upon me because I am black, because the sun looked about it. We need to be honest and accept facts about our appearance. What am I? How am I? In my life, I'm 5'11", and the most I ever got was 3/4. Now that they say I'm old, I have shrunk some. I never reached 6 foot. I was at a doctor's office one time that knew me, and he had on his chart how much I weighed and how tall I was, and he wanted to measure me again. I don't know why. Maybe it's been years, and I was 6'1", and he said, "Quit getting on your tippy toes." He said, "You're gonna have to stare," and he didn't even look down. He just knew that I was up on my tippy toes. That's not the way you change how tall you are. I never made 6 foot tall. What if I would have been? If I was 6'1", would I want to be 6'2", or would I want to be 5'11"? I don't know, but we're not satisfied with how God has made us most of the time. And this woman says, I am black. Don't look at me because I'm black. That's her appearance. Now, she does give an explanation here, which is interesting. She says, I'm black because. Today, we look at people and kind of judge them. We shouldn't, but we judge them based on the color of their skin. And she said, I'm black because the sun had looked upon me. She's worked outside. Her mother's children, her brothers and sisters, half brothers and sisters or whatever, that they made her work out in the field. Rather than staying inside, she was outside the sun. And I want to ask you a question. Does climatic conditions have anything to do with the color of your skin? If God made Adam and Eve, and he did, and he didn't make, and all of us stem from them, he didn't make any other races of people, and by the way, RACE, races of people, is not used in the Bible as we use it in our society. We divide the human race up by races. The Bible doesn't do that. The only race in the Bible is the running race, running a race. And so I don't like this division that your race is this, my race is this. So, but we have a lot of it. And where did they come from? And some have suggested that God made Adam and Eve, which, by the way, Adam comes from red man, reddish man. And was he a white man? Was he a reddish man? And some say he was a white man and the reddishness was he could be embarrassed. I don't know about that. But if we all came from Adam and Eve, then we all came out of their genetic pool. And all of the shades, all of our colors, all of our shapes came from our only two ancestors. Now, if you don't believe the Bible, I guess you can make up anything you want and explain this. But she accepted the facts about her appearance. I'm black, and this is why I'm black. I thought I would share with you quickly a thing about black skin. In the Bible, it doesn't use the word race. And we sing a song, black, red and yellow, black and white, we're all God's children. But that isn't in the Bible either. That's a song that, probably a good song, but the Bible says in Job chapter 30 and verse 30, my skin is black. In the Song of Solomon in chapter 1, verse 5 and 6, I am black. In Jeremiah 8:21, I am black. And in Lamentations chapter 5, verse 10, our skin was black. Now, the Bible, Old Testament, nowhere in the New Testament do I see any reference to black skin, but in the Old Testament, we have references to the fact that people had black skin. And two of them, this one in the Song of Solomon, indicates climatic conditions darkened her skin. Is black, is that relative? If a brown person gets suntan, do they get black? By the way, I have some black friends that say they get sunburnt too. It's just that you can't see it. It's not as obvious. But does climatic conditions contribute to the darkness of skin? Surely. White people know that. They go to the beach and sometimes they go to tanning beds and they want to get darker and darker and darker and darker. And so that's what it seems like here. Just not explaining where black people came from, just hinting at the idea that climatic conditions was the cause of this woman's skin being blackened. And then in Jeremiah and in Job, it just states the fact that they were black skinned. But in Lamentation chapter 5 and verse 10, our skin was blackened because of the great famine. Does dietary conditions ever affect the color of skin? Our skin, the color of our skin has to do with inside our skin. And all of us have certain elements in our skin. And does the diet conditions, does the climatic conditions affect it? And is that possible that that's where the different shades of people, the different colors of skin, rather than breaking up to races and be divisive about it? I got a map here, and this is a map that I got. It came from earthlymissions.com, World Skin Color Map. And it reveals truth about races. And they kind of agree with me about the races. And I want to show this map. Look at where it's dark, the map up here, where it's dark is where the people are darker. In the middle, the equator makes the very dark skin. The further north or south you go from the equator, the skin gets lighter. Get extremely far away from it, and south or north, and you get lighter yet. A map showing skin color on a map. Now, this doesn't mean that everybody that lives there is that color, but it does show some conditions from the lightest skin to the darkest color skin. I worked in South Africa for a little while among the Zulus, and the Zulus claimed that they were the darkest people of humans, the darkest skin of people, because they were the purest. I can't argue with them. I don't know. But they had dark skin. So what if your skin is dark? What if your skin is light? What if your skin is freckled? What if your skin has no freckles at all? If you're going to be a beautiful woman, you need to accept the fact of what you are. That's all. Just accept that fact. Uh, I've been married a long time, and my wife passed away, and I got married again. And I got thinking about what attracts me to women. And when I was looking for my second wife, and after Jeanette died, and I was attracted to Kitty's smile. And I've looked around to other women, and I like their smiling. If you feel good about yourself, you seem to have an internal beauty. And that's A, she accepts facts of her appearance. B, she is honest about herself and others. That's in verse 6. And in verse 6, she's claiming I'm black. She's explaining why she's black. And she says, my mother's children were angry with me. They made me to keep her the vineyard, but my own vineyard have I not kept. Did she have some conflict with the children of her mother? Now, her brothers, her half-brothers, step-brothers, however you want to call it, I don't know. We don't know a lot about the Shulamite's family, where they came from, and all this. But this condition, and she's honest about it. And sometimes when we have conflicts, when we have something less than perfect conditions, we have a tendency to avoid them, to exaggerate them, not talk about it. This Shulamite woman is a beautiful woman, and she's honest about herself and others. How honest can you be? Now, I don't mean you have to be honest with everybody about everything, but if somebody asks you a question, I was born with a weak eye, a lazy eye, they call it, and I've had it all my life. And sometimes people notice it right off, and sometimes people don't notice it right away. And it's me. This is the way I was born, with an eye like this. And my brothers and sisters, many of my brothers and sisters have a condition like this, similar, and they went and had surgery done and had all kinds of procedures done to straighten their eye out. I've never had anything done with it. And every so often I have somebody, usually a child, that'll look at me and say, what's wrong with your eye? There's nothing wrong with my eye. Until I got in my late 60s, I had 20/20 vision. My peripheral vision, seeing around me, is better because of my crooked eye. But I don't want it to be changed. I don't want, especially at this point in my life, I don't want it fixed. And in my family, around my family, we refer to it as the Kirsche eye. That's my last name, Kirsche, and it's the Kirsche eye. So can I be honest? And the children look at me and say, what's wrong with your eye? And I say, oh, God made me this way. You understand that? God made me like I am. I have 5 children, and when they were growing up, every so often they'd say something to me like, Daddy, why don't you change your hairstyle? Get a hairstyle that's up to date. And I've been combing my hair this way for 60 years, 60-something years. I have no desire to change it. I like my hair the way I comb it. I don't want to change it. But how about these people that want to change everything all the time? Obsessed with their looks, obsessed with what they are. That hinders a person from being truly beautiful. Outside is secondary to inside. Get beautifully inside Feel good about yourself. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with your appearance. And you will probably come across as a much more beautiful woman. Now, as I studied this and meditated on this and thought about this, I thought that's interesting. That's interesting. How, what makes a woman beautiful? Why does the Song of Solomon deal with this? It's going to be a love story. And she seems to be straightforward with this and out in front with it. And I think that gives us a little indication of how to be beautiful. Don't go have plastic surgery to do this or to undo this and all of that. Let's just be what God made us to be. Ooh, can it be that simple? Can you accept that I am what I am? That's it. I don't need to be anything else. Don't need to pretend I'm something else. I'm just what God made me and where He put me. The second thing we want to talk about, a beautiful woman, is a woman who keeps herself pure. Number 2 on your outline, her ability to keep herself pure. There's a lot of pressure, and ever since the Garden of Eden, I guess this pressure has been there. But how do you keep yourself pure? Men don't seem to be so concerned about being pure, but how about a beautiful woman? Many, many years ago, I had a couple come to me, and they were a young couple getting married for the first time, and I was the associate pastor, and I did the counseling in the church. The pastor didn't want the counsel, and they came to me and said, we're concerned. We're both virgins, and we're concerned we won't know what to do on our wedding night. We don't have anybody to talk to about it. We haven't practiced with anybody. We hadn't done anything. What do you think we should do? And by that time, I had been married for many, many years. I had had children. In fact, I may even had grandchildren by that time. And I told them, don't worry about it. If this is my advice to them and my advice to anybody, if you don't perform on your wedding night, that's okay. There's a lot of pressure on your wedding night. There's a lot of activity, there's a lot of emotion, and we don't have to perform. And some girl said, well, I got to know what I'm supposed to do. Some guy said, well, I'm just practicing. No, that's the wrong attitude. Keep yourself pure. And in verse 7, listen to what it says. Tell me, O thou, who my soul loveth. That word loveth has a TH on the end of it. Continually. Where thou feedest, when thou makest thy flock to rest at noon. And for why should I be as one that turneth aside by the flock of thy companions? Where should I go? What should I do? Is me keeping myself pure have to do with who I hang out with? Write A on your handout. She avoided place of compromise. She wanted to stay near Solomon so she wouldn't be in a position to where somebody could compromise her, she could be compromised. And so she wanted to be close to safety. My girls, my wife and my girls we used to talk about when they're out at night. And I think that God has given women a built-in sensor that there's danger. And one night my wife was leaving the hospital. She was a nurse at the hospital and she was leaving. And she wasn't leaving when the shift changed. And she was leaving and she had to walk across the parking lot by herself. And she remembered what I said about take heed to what you sense. She went back in, got a security guard. The security guard walked across the parking lot with her. She got in her car and drove off, and he walked back. There was no danger that she could see, but maybe there was a danger. And that sense of it, this doesn't look like a safe place to go. This isn't a place that I want to be. I don't know why she wanted me here. She loved him. She said, whom my soul loveth. She wanted to be in love with him. She loved loving him, and she was going to continue loving him, but she wanted to be near him and don't be in a place of compromise. When I was in Florida, I was a bus captain for a large church, and I was counseling a couple that was dating, and they came to me and said, how can we keep ourselves pure? And I shared with them some ideas. Don't ever be alone. Don't be somewhere where you're compromised. Don't let other people compromise you. And that they kind of agreed with me, that double date, go out with a crowd, go bowling rather than the theater. And so they agreed with me. They were a young couple, and they came to me and said they had a failure, had a moral failure. And I said, well, what happened? Where were you? Well, we went down to the beach and got a blanket and laid on the blanket on the beach all night long. Are you serious? Are you asking for trouble? How do you keep yourself pure? You avoid places of compromise. You just shouldn't have done it. And they confessed it, asked the Lord to forgive them, accepted the Lord's forgiveness, so the Lord forgave them, no trouble at all. And they went ahead and got married. Last time I heard, they had a house full of children, and we're doing fine. I hope that's good. I hope that's true, and I hope they really had a blessed marriage. But does that make sense? Avoid the place of compromise. B is verse 8. If thou knowest not, or thou fairest among women, go thy way forth by the footsteps of the flock, and feed the kids beside the shepherd's tent. I want you to write B. She purposefully avoided temptation. Purposefully avoided temptation. Don't compromise. Don't put yourself in a place to where you could be tempted. And the temptations are going to come. But if you're in a place, wait a minute, I'm purposefully not going to go there. I'm not going to do this. So what can you say? What do you have to do? And do I have a lot of advice for women to be staying pure? Well, my daughters, I gave them advice. And I gave them primarily advice about what a man says and what a man does. And I know men. I don't understand women. I don't know how long I have to live or how long I have to be alive to understand women. And I joke with them and say every time I figure out women, they change. So I don't know. But in the book of Ruth, we have some advice about dating that I give to young girls. And I don't know if dating, when I taught Christian high school, we talked about courting or dating. And I've asked the young people, why do you date? And the answer that I got most often was to have fun. We're dating to have fun. That might be a big problem. Courting is for getting married. See if a person is a good candidate for marriage. Get to know them. Would you like to spend the rest of your life with this person? How do they handle situations? What are you doing with them? And so I recommend courting over dating because young people probably don't need to put emphasis on all this fun that they're having, just having fun. Be careful. But in the book of Ruth, we have a story about Ruth and Naomi. And Naomi is the older mother. And Naomi is going to give the younger woman, Ruth, some advice. And in chapter 3 of the book of Ruth, advice for her, the first 6 verses of this chapter is an older woman giving advice to a younger woman. You remember the New Testament says that women ought to teach older women, elderly women ought to teach younger women how to do certain things. I think that's so important, and I see that lacking in our church, in our churches, and but that's where the advice needs to come, and that's what we have here in the book of Ruth, chapter 3. Now, let me give you some things about this. This is just little side notes. Then Naomi, her mother-in-law, said unto her, My daughter, shall I not seek rest for thee, that it might be well with thee? And now is not Boaz of our kindred, with whom maidens thou wast? Behold, he weaneth barley tonight in the threshing floor. Wash thyself, therefore, and anoint thee, and put on thy remnant upon thee, and get thee down to the floor, but make not thyself known unto the men until he shall have done eating and drinking. And it shall be, when he lieth down, that thou shouldest mark the place where he shall lie, and thou shalt go in and uncover his feet, and lie there down, and he will tell thee what thou shouldest do. Verse 5, And she said unto her, All that thou sayest unto me I will do. And she went down on the floor, and did according to all that her mother-in-law bid her. She's a widow woman, Ruth is. Her husband died, and this is her mother-in-law giving her advice. Now, I have, 7 points about advice for her from this older woman. Your authority's approval of the idea. Have some authorities in your life. Who should be your authority? Well, your mother, your parents, your grandparents perhaps, some teachers, some people in the church, some women in the church, and some people that you have a lot of advice for. And 1 or 2, verse 1 and 2, and 5 and 6 is about getting your authorities' approval for what you plan on doing. Don't just, I made up my mind, this is what I'm going to do. Don't do that. That's A. B, take a bath. This is a very practical advice in verse 3. Wash thyself, therefore. Take a bath. And you want to be attractive, you want to go on a date, wash yourself, is what it's saying. So I think it's very practical. C, put on some perfume. I don't know why perfume affects us. It does. We like something that is clean and smells good. I joked with my wife, and she said, what kind of perfume do you like the best? And I like vanilla. I like the smell of vanilla. And so she regularly put vanilla, a little drop of vanilla extract behind her ears, and it smelled so good. And Naomi is telling Ruth, wash yourself, take a bath, and anoint thee. So put on some perfume. And then D, wear some nice clothing. Don't go on a date looking like you just coming out from the back 40. And I don't think you need to put on sexy clothes, but put on some nice clothes. Some nice clothes. And get dressed up for the occasion that you're going in. And then E, Spend time with him. You make plans to spend time with him. And you got to get to know somebody. You got to spend some time with them. And so that's what she says. Find out where he is. He's down at the weaning. He's on the threshing floor. Go down and spend some time with him. And then F. This is F on your handout. Don't interrupt him. Don't interrupt the man you want to date when he's not ready for you, when he's not expecting you. Apparently, men this long ago and men now don't like to be interrupted. And so don't interrupt him. And then G, do what he says. But I put in parentheses on this, a righteous man. If you have a man that's living right, do what he says he wants you to do. In verse 4, and it shall be when he lieth down, when thou shalt mark the place where he shall lie, and thou shalt go in and uncover his feet, and lie there down, and he will tell thee what thou shalt do. Now, there's some circles in this world where I wouldn't tell you to do what this man says. This is not a sexual thing. This is a customary thing and a very pure thing. And she's not presenting himself to her. But what does a righteous man say? How are you going to have to do this? What should we do? How should we do it? And this is advice for her. And then verse 7 through 18, don't have time to read all this, but from 7 to 18, it's advice for him. Advice for him. And I got 5 points here. Learn about her and her family. Boaz understood who Naomi was, what Ruth went through, what she's experienced, and understood her family. When you get married, you're marrying into a family. I had a man not long ago say, I don't know if I'm going to marry her. I love her, but I can't stand her family. I said, don't marry her then. Learn to love her family before you marry her, because you're marrying into a family. You know how much turmoil that'll be after you get married? And and B, desire the blessings of the Lord upon her. In verse 10, and he said, blessed be thou of the Lord, my daughter. Have a man that wants God to bless you. Bless you and be a blessing unto you. That's what you want. And then C, notice her good qualities. Look for the good qualities in the woman. Now, if you're looking for poor qualities, if you're looking for defects, if you're looking for one thing, you'll probably find it, but notice the good qualities, like her smile, how she stands, how she holds herself, all kinds of things, how she demeans it, how she takes care of herself. D, let time and circumstances confirm the Lord's will. Verse 12 through 14. He had to go check on some things. He had to, and let the time and circumstances. Don't you be the one in charge of all the timing, all the circumstances. And this is advice for the man. Let the Lord's will be done. And this is a good story, and it shows you some customs back then and what they had to go through. And he was willing to wait. And somebody else was ahead of him to marry her. And in this society, they had rules about who married a woman whose husband died, that they had no children. And he wanted to go along with this. This is what the Lord's rules were. And he was willing to go along with that until the other man relinquished his responsibilities, and said, go. And this is the way of confirming the Lord's will. And then the fifth one is assuming full responsibility for the marriage. The man accepts the full responsibility for the marriage. Men have traditionally, through life, through the course of history, been initiators. Women have been responders. Now, in our day and age, we don't always have that. We don't always have, and women think that they should run things. They think that they should uh, initiate things, and you know, how about if the man accepts responsibility, and the man asks the woman to marry him? That's okay, isn't it? Okay, that's traditionally how it goes, and so uh, you're trying to how we're talking about how a woman can be beautiful and self-examination, and she keeps herself pure. She does what she needs to do to keep herself pure. Don't go running around. Don't go honky tonkin'. I don't even know exactly what honky tonkin' is, but it doesn't sound like something a woman who wants to be pure is going to do. Save yourself for marriage, male and female, not just the female, the male. If a male wants a pure woman to marry, he needs to present himself pure. Keep yourself pure. If you're not pure, do you even deserve a pure woman? I don't think so. And so I think that's keeping yourself pure. And we like to have a pure woman that knows herself, honest with herself. And I'm going to put in there, this is a little Kirscheology, and knows how to smile. I think your whole face lights up, your whole body. By the way, the Bible does talk about we should be directed towards your face. The woman's face is what we should be directed to. There's a story about a pastor who had a number of daughters, and he took them to the airport one day and sat down and watched, and he asked the daughters to look at the women, and they were looking at the women and noticing the men looking at them. And afterwards, the daddy had a conversation with the daughters and said, what were the men looking at as they seen the women in the airport in passing? And the girls came to the conclusion men were looking at what the women wanted them to look at. If you wore clothes that you wanted the man to look at, you wore certain clothes. And but what if you dressed in such a way, such a purpose? You dressed so the eyes of the man would be on your face, and your face ought to be reflecting Christ in your life. Wouldn't that be great? That'd be a great, great thing. And that the daddy had a good lesson for those girls that day, and turned their eyes to where you want them to look at. So we diverted back to Ruth. Got a couple things on Ruth to help you, and I like that when I teach Ruth. Now, what makes a woman beautiful? Her ability to do true self-examination, 1. 2, her ability to keep herself pure. And 3, her reactions to the one she loves. That's point number 3. How does she react? Verse 9 through 11, back in the Song of Solomon, chapter 1. And the man is initiator. The woman is the reactor, the responder. How does she respond? And in these verses, especially verse 9, look what it says. I have compared thee, O my love, to a company of horses and Pharaoh's chariots. This is him talking. He is comparing her. When he looks at her, he compares her to horses. What her love compares her to. Now, we just have a tendency to compare one another, to compare and look at each other. And he, Solomon, if you study his life, was obsessed with horses and chariots. It's what he liked. It would be like today somebody liking fast cars, nice cars, classical cars. And what if he compares her to a really classy car? What's he saying? If he's already in love with horses and he says, I have compared thee, O my love, to a company of horses in Pharaoh's chariots. Pharaoh was from Egypt, Solomon was from Israel, and apparently he liked the horses, the Egyptian horses, the horsemen, the horses that they had to pull the chariots. And Egypt did it upright. And Solomon said, to see those horses, they're big and strong and beautiful. And I don't know. I guess I'm not in love with horses, so I don't know if this would be an attractive thing. But what if your man said, you remind me of a horse? Well, you got to understand where he's coming from. You got to understand how he's applying it. Solomon had many horses, and he loved his horses. He said, I'm up in Israel. I was in Megiddo, and in Megiddo, it's at the top of a hill. It's on a mountain, and he had a city up there, and he had horses up on top of Megiddo, and he had all kinds of things up there for his horses, stables and silos to hold the feed. By the way, in biblical days, the silo didn't stand high, it went down. And they poured the feed in there, and then they had it was in the stone, and they walked around the side of the silo to go down to where the food was. And they went down there and got buckets of food or filled up whatever they had and brought it up to the horses. And it was neat seeing this and understanding. And this was in the northern part of Israel. And but Solomon had these horses. And is it a good thing? Well, if the man has his attention on something, and he compares you to something that he is highly favored with. Does that make sense to you? If you want to be a beautiful woman, remind him of something that he already loves. Uh, Fishing. I don't go fishing, but some men love fishing. And they look at these fish that they caught with a loving eye. Motorcycles, boats, airplanes, just all kinds of things. How about what they collect? Coins and baseball cards. And what's he obsessing his time on? I used to save postage stamps, and it's canceled postage stamps, so they weren't worth a lot of money, but I liked them, and some of them were so beautiful, and some of them, many of them taught me about geography. I know a lot about the places in the world where these stamps came from, and the history of the United States through some of their stamps that this just taught me. And I liked my stamp collection. And I made models. I liked airplane models and car models and things like that. And what if a woman took an interest in what I was interested in? See? Rather than saying, "Oh, I don't care anything about horses. You can have your horses, but I don't care." But Solomon is comparing his woman to something he already loves, something he already admires. Do you see the muscles on horses? Do you see the lines on them? The ability that horses have. And I had an experience with a horse, and a friend of mine raised horses, and he took me down to this field, and he said, took me next to this great big horse. And like I said, I'm nearly 6 foot tall, and this horse was way taller than I was. Great big horse, a white colored horse. And he said, don't let this horse go through the gate. And he didn't give me a rope. He just said, don't let this horse is big. He probably weighed 2,000 pounds more or more. And so I laughed and said, how am I going to stop this horse from doing anything he wants to do? And he was a beautiful horse. And I rubbed his nose. I reached up and rubbed the horse's nose and talked to him calmly and got his attention and told him he was the biggest horse I ever seen. Beautiful horse. And what would I look like sitting up on top of him, way up high with a big hat on? And I would have looked like something. I was talking to him, and I seen somebody come in the gate. So they were going to have to open the gate and close the gate, and this horse wanted to get out. And so I talked to this horse, and when I was rubbing his nose, I kind of pulled him aside so he couldn't see the gate, directly see the gate. And when that gate was open and closed, and that horse heard that gate, and then turned around and saw, he did a double take on me. He looked at me, looked back at the gate, and looked at me again, like, you got me this time, big boy. And but it was funny because the second time the gate opened, I couldn't distract him. The second time the gate opened, guess where the horse went? Through the gate. That's just what he did. But by that time, it was okay that he went through the gate. So I didn't. Another time, dealing with this man, he wanted me to get this horse on a horse trailer, and the horse didn't want to get in the trailer. So he told me to tie a rope around his neck and go through the trailer and out the window, and then come around and get the rope and pull the horse into the trailer. Well, that horse didn't want to go more than I wanted to get him to go. So I pulled him, and he was backing up, and we were just having a tug of war, and he didn't want to get in that horse trailer. I don't know why. So I got the boss to come and pull the rope, and he told me go behind the horse and smack the horse on the rump, and that would motivate the horse to get in the trailer. I didn't want to smack that horse in the rump. No, that horse would kick me in the middle of next week. So I told the boss, I said, no, if you want to hit the horse, you come back here and hit the horse. And so he fixed a knot in a rope and spun the rope around and hit that horse on the rear end back far enough to where the horse couldn't kick him. And guess what the horse decided was the best thing to do? Get in that horse trailer. I had the rope and pulling it, but that didn't get him in that. And that horse ran up there in that horse trailer and got right where we wanted him to be. And some horse experiences. But I'm not infatuated with them. If you want to be beautiful, a woman wants to be beautiful, be interested in what the man is interested in, and he'll see the beauty for you. Back in the 50s, I think it was, maybe the early 60s, there was a song about this girl singing about she'll do anything for her man. And one of the lines in it was, I'll wear my hair the way he wants me to wear it. And I happen to like long hair. And so what if a woman wants to attract me? If she knows I like long hair, how should she wear her hair? Should she let her hair grow longer to be responsive to what I like? I was looking over some pictures of my late wife, and I don't have any really what I would call sexy pictures of my late wife. I was married 45 and a half years, and, she dressed very appropriately. She stood with me. She stayed with me. I stayed with her. And we stayed together until what we promised, till death do us part. And we talked about that. And in our 45 and a half years, we went and bought a cemetery plot. And that's a strange thing when you're a young man, a young woman. And because we made this commitment to each other until death do us part, we thought it would be good to have a cemetery plot, have it paid for, know where it is. And then the federal government opened up Georgia National Cemetery. And because I'm a veteran, I'm qualified for a gravesite. So I buried her there in the National Cemetery. But what her love compares her to, how is she going to react to that? What does that do with her and for her? And then what she sees in her eyes, if she can, we're talking about how does a woman become beautiful. What if you see you through his eyes? Last night, a pastor friend of mine, I've known him a long time, him and his wife were having a little feud, and he called me. And I pointed out a couple things that he needs to do, some advice, and nothing real serious, but there's a few things that he said, she said, he said, and he wasn't paying attention to what she said. And so that became a source of irritation. And I don't think before the argument he was even aware that he was aggravating her. She wasn't looking through his eyes at her. They've been married quite a long time. And, so you need to do this. But what do you see? What does she see in his eyes as he's looking at her? In verse 10, thy cheeks are comely. Now, he looks at her cheeks, and what does he see about her cheeks? Beautiful cheeks. He's infatuated with her cheeks. He loves to look at her cheeks. So does she see him looking at her? And what does he looking at? Her cheeks. And I don't know how her cheeks looked, but he liked them. By the way, when Jeanette and I got married, her cheeks were beautiful, but there wasn't any wrinkles in them. She was in her early 20s, and there wasn't any wrinkles. 45 and a half years later, they wrinkled up a little bit. Her cheeks wrinkled up. But it wasn't an ugliness. Her wrinkles didn't make her ugly. They were life. Life gave her wrinkles as she grown older, gave me wrinkles, gave her wrinkles, and her cheeks had some honest wrinkles, I guess I can say. And they were beautiful. And so can a woman's cheeks be beautiful? Should a man be attracted to the woman he's falling in love with? Yes. What does he see? What does he think is beautiful? Her cheeks, he thinks, are beautiful. So she sees him in verse 10, thy cheeks are comely. And then what's he look at? With rows of jewels, thy neck with chains of gold. Her teeth. He looks at her teeth. And they look like jewels, all lined up. I was watching a show the other day, and a number of people on the show had rotten teeth and broken teeth. And that was somewhat distracting to me. And but Solomon looks at her teeth. Now, think about it for a minute. It might be a little humorous. What would a man wanting to buy a horse or considering a horse? He'd look at the horse's teeth. Well, he's looking at his future wife's teeth. How are they? Jeanette, when she was young, she used to eat lemons with salt on them. And her front two teeth were discolored, just slightly discolored. And I'm glad that I wasn't attracted to horses because that may have, turned me off of her. But we got married and we got our front teeth fixed. And, so that wasn't a distraction anymore. But what are you going to do? I went to the dentist and he said, "Why did you let your teeth get in this bad of shape?" And I said, "I wasn't expecting to live this long, which, I should have taken better care of my teeth. I didn't. And so I had to get some store-bought teeth. And, but looked at her cheeks, looked at her teeth. And then what does he say? Her neck. In biblical days, a woman who had a long neck was considered so beautiful. I don't know what the fashion magazines, what they all do now. A woman with a long neck. But he was enamored with her neck and wanted chains of gold around that long neck. You see what he's looking at? And women need to see what we see as being attractive. And, what is it? What are you going to do? If you want to be considered a beautiful woman, what do? My wife, as we got married, when we got married, we were both thin and trim. And over the years, she had pregnancy after pregnancy, and I got older and settled. And one day she said to me, will you do something with those 3 chins you developed? And I said, "Yes, ma'am. I'll do something with my 3 chins." So I grew a beard. So I've had a beard ever since. I've had a full beard most of the time. And I covered up the 3 chins. And she kind of laughed at that. She said, "That's not exactly what I had in mind, but you did something with it." And so now you can't see my 3 chins. But what can you do? What is beautiful about the woman you want? And do you relay that to her? A beautiful smile, eyes that sparkle when you have a big smile, hair, long flowing hair. Man, these are things that makes a woman beautiful. But you don't take what I think, you take what he thinks. You want to be beautiful, you see you through his eyes. What's he looking at? What's he paying attention to? Those become very, very important elements. And then see what value he places on her. What would you do for your wife, and what would your wife want you to do? There's an old song that came out many years ago. There ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley wide enough, ain't no river deep enough to keep me from getting to you, babe. There's a question posed to a man. Would you swim in an alligator infested creek to get me a drink? And the man said, "Yes, I would." And I'd go back and I'd swim it again if you wanted an umbrella and it didn't come with an umbrella. And so that what do you value? The one you love at. And if you want to be a beautiful woman, you need to be valued. What would a man value sometimes? What does he see as a good place? Look at verse 11. We will make the borders of gold with studs of silver. He's implying that the value of her is gold and silver. Now, does that mean she wants gold and silver? No. But what was the most valuable thing in the day of Solomon? If you read Solomon building the temple, the first temple in Jerusalem, Jewish temple, had so much gold in it. And it talks about how many talents of gold. Over the years, the amount of gold that Solomon used on the temple was considered way too much. That he wasted gold. He shouldn't have put that much gold in there, or that there wasn't that much gold on the earth. That it was exaggerated. It wasn't right. He could not have put that much gold in the temple until they found, not too long ago, it's been a number of years, but not too long ago, they found a gold mine in southern Israel. Solomon's gold mine is what they called it. And guess what? He had right there in his own country, he could mine the gold. We weren't told where did he get this gold, but when they found the gold mines, that's probably where Solomon got the gold mines. He mined it in his own country. And so, did you put your value on gold? Well, the whole world put some value on gold and silver. And right now, the price of gold and silver is going up, but it might come back down again. It might go up again. It goes up and down all the time, like a roller coaster. And but what's the value of silver and gold? Silver right now is worth about 10% what gold is. So gold is 10 times the amount that silver is. And but these two metals are very important to our economy, to the world's economy. And how are you gonna do that? I think you are precious. I think you are valuable. I think you are just great. And what's he thinking of? He places a value on her as silver and gold. And I think they look good together. I think silver and gold both, they complement each other, but that's how valuable you are as silver and gold. That's placing a high value on it, rather than take the person, your spouse, your lover, your wife, your concubine back then, but the woman you love, the woman you really are in love with. How valuable are you? You're not going to take her for granted. I heard a situation the other day when this man and woman are dating. They're up in their age and they're thinking about getting married, but he does things that aggravates her. And so she asked the counselor to explain to the counselor what he was doing that aggravates her. And what aggravated her was he wanted the dishes in the dishwasher right after dinner. And the woman said, I like to just put them in the sink. So the counselor said, well, what do you have to do later? What do you do later with these dishes that you put in the sink? She says, then I'll put them in the dishwasher. But it really aggravates her that he wants them to be put in the dishwasher right now. So that was a little contention between the two. You know what the counselor said? Made her realize how much she's aggravating him by not putting dishes in the dishwasher. See, she thinks he was just nitpicking about the dishwasher, but did he express, or maybe he didn't do it plainly enough, did he express what he wanted? He wanted the dishes put in the dishwasher, and she didn't do it. And she didn't see her not doing it as the source of an irritation. She saw that he wanted them in the dishwasher as a source of irritation. What if the woman, the man you love, the one you're attracted to, the one you want to spend the rest of your life with, is being irritating? Shouldn't you try to overcome the irritation? And that's the, I told you last night somebody called, and that he wasn't listening to her, and that irritated him. And when he called me, I gave some advice of how to get away from the irritation. It wasn't unreasonable what she wanted. He just wasn't paying attention. Do we want to be valued? Do we want to have our spouse consider us beautiful, valuable? I like valuable things. I'm going to protect them. How about you? How to make a woman beautiful, her ability to do self-examination, be honest with yourself, be what you are, her ability to keep herself pure, and her reaction to the one she loves. Look at yourself through his eyes. What is he looking at? What does he want? We hope you like this lesson. And lesson number 2, we got more to come. Study with us, stay with us, and understand these. God's book on love and marriage. Let's pray together. Father, we do thank you for loving us. Thank you for the whole concept of love and marriage. And Father, help us to prepare our hearts for it. In Jesus' wonderful name we pray. Amen. God bless you.